policy doesn't come first. The people should be telling us these are the problems, and then we should be providing, okay, these are the solutions, thus policy to fix the problems. But still, the people come first. What you think, what you want, that's what matters most. And right now, that's not the case in this country. Because right now, you have people telling us this is what matters. Okay?
Hi, welcome to the Texas Forward podcast. My name is Julie Kornegay, and we are starting part 2 of our special episode featuring 2 Montgomery County students for their club Pizza and Politics. We're also joined by Montgomery County Chair Brent Veazey.
Thank you, Julie, for inviting me and joining these guys. It's fantastic what they're doing at Lone Star College with this group. It's unbelievable.
Right? Totally, 100%. So, Kyahn and Rafael, like we discussed at the wrap up of episode 1, it's your turn to kind of wear the host hat. So, take it away.
All right, thank you. I think one thing at the Lone Star Montgomery campus at Pizza and Politics that we would like to know is what y'all do for your Forward Party, your roles in it, and what the Forward Party is about, what it stands for.
Ladies first.
I wear many hats. I started off with just communications, Twitter, and then morphed into a state leadership role. I'm on the EC, so I cannot vote in the March 5th primary. And also, I'm a podcast. I do a lot of different spectrums of stuff. For what the Forward Party means to me is just basically the essence of its name, forward. I think we're just, in my personal opinion, we are trapped in this overly propagandized state. And for us to move forward, we have to kind of let go of the past. And, whatever any past president did or, whatever happened, we need to, the time is right now to start changing the course for the history of our country.
My name is Emily Spivak, and I am also on the communications committee. I help out with the podcast quite a bit, so I do the editing for the sound and the video that you hear. And I also help out a little bit on social media when I can. It's not very often can I get over there, but I'd like to have more time. But we're all volunteers here, so it's a balance of things. I also help out with the website and messaging over there and layout design, stuff like that. So I'm a graphic designer by trade, and so that's where I kind of fit in here. And then occasionally I co-host, and I believe that the Forward Party is, is important, and we need it because our values are based on election reform and giving power back to the people and making democracy work again. And so that is why I'm really passionate, and that is why I volunteer my time.
Awesome.
And I'm Brent Veazey, and I am the chairperson for the Montgomery County Forward Party here locally. My focus is on building the party within Montgomery County and doing it from the grassroots up. We initially had a rollout. We've been around for a couple of years in the state, and an initial strategy was focusing on trying to make a big splash, getting on the ballot this year, and doing some things that way with ballot access. Well, because of how things are structured within the state on election law, we found that to be a very, very tall order. And we found that was an order that we were not going to be able to make happen. So we decided to go in a different direction and say, look, let's do this the right way, which is building from the ground up, grassroots up, build locally, and have us be focused on engaging people where they need to be engaged most, which is in your neighborhoods, your homes, and talking about the things that matter most to you, which is what's going on in the yards around me and in my own backyard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rafael Jimenez. I just want to introduce myself because I didn't get a chance to. So I wanted to expand on that, what you just mentioned. So before, in the conversation we had before airing this episode, we had a lot of discussion about policies and how political parties perceive him. The Democratic Party has set amount or said policies. The Republican Party has said policies. So one thing that I thought was fascinating that you guys mentioned again and again was that the Forward Party does not have a set list of policies. Could y'all expand on that and really explain what that means?
To start, I would say it's not about the policy, but it's about the people, okay? And I think that's been lost a little bit with what's been happening in our politics, is that it's more about the policy, about the idea, instead of what is supposed to be the people. And I think that's why we're trying to focus more on the reverse. You and I, and making sure that we're able to live our best lives and coming up with the ways of doing that, no matter what the source is, because it doesn't matter what the source is as long as that makes things better for the American people. What do y'all think on that?
I think that we get so, I know we discussed this I think we get so stuck on policies that we overlook what's happening with the state of our country, the quality of life. I also think that what we do stand for, election reform, grace and tolerance, just basically humanity, is not as flashy as, the policy. The ideological policies, not as flashy. I'll give you that. Ranked choice voting is not something that you hear every day, but these are steps to finding solutions towards getting towards those policies. Where do we fundamentally mess up voting reform? We talked about it earlier, how they passed legislation in the 2023 Texas Ledge to remove voting booths from college campuses. So just this direct threat to our very democracy, although it might not be as flashy as, well, what is your policy on immigration? And what is your policy on, big pharma? Where do you stand on this? Still, to get to those policies, we have to fix what's broken. And the easiest thing that's broken right now is local community, civic, making sure that you are aware in your community, and also voting reform and the obstacles that both parties put in place to make it harder for us to practice democracy.
And you will get the policies that you want with the candidates. So we are not going to expect you to go out and vote for someone where you don't know where they stand. They will have the values of the Forward Party behind them, so they must be willing to reach across the aisle. They must be willing to find solutions. They must believe in democracy reform and be working towards that, like through ranked choice voting, non-district or open primaries, and having independent redistricting committees is what I was trying to say. So they will have, and like Julie touched on too, like grace and tolerance, these ideas. So there are values behind them, and then when the candidates come, they will have policies. And you can look at some of our sister states who they already have candidates, and of course they do have policies out there. And that can kind of help give you an idea as well.
Policy doesn't come first. The people should be telling us these are the problems, and then we should be providing, okay, these are the solutions, thus policy to fix the problems. But still, the people come first. What you think, what you want, that's what matters most. And right now, that's not the case in this country. Because right now, you have people telling us this is what matters. Okay? This matters. This matters. This doesn't matter. Okay? And it's reversed. So we're trying to fix that by refocusing people on this is what it says, we the people, in all of our founding documents. We are the government. The government is not something else. We are.
Thank you for those very insightful answers. I can tell that by your answers, you really care about the people. One thing I would like to ask is, what does it mean for a person to be a part of the Forward Party, Like, what are the, not qualifications, but like, what are some of the values that you can share with us? And also, are there any specific events that maybe got y'all involved in the Forward Party or made y'all look towards third partisan?
I think for me, the Forward Party is very similar to your group, Pizza and Politics. We're a place where you can have open dialogue. There are no wrong answers. There are just, solutions. And that idea that, yes, we can work together to find those solutions. For me, the Forward Party has been hope. I cannot tell you what it was like 2020. Just basically, I mean, everything was in slow motion, and just the news cycle, constant news cycle, and I realized two things during that we were in a really bad place, towards our preserving our democracy, and that our media and social media were definitely, I don't want to say in cahoots, but okay, in cahoots to feeding that narrative that creates that pandemic, that creates that level of scare, makes you scared. Like I can remember during on 2022, I cannot think of it was one of the outbreaks of the COVID virus. I didn't leave my apartment for like 6 weeks because I was watching the news and they had me so scared. And so it's like knowing that you can have that trust in the news. We don't have that from that. So from that perspective, I think, like, to tie it all back, I have hope because I have Brent and I have Emily now. And the other volunteers, Rick Kennedy, our state chair, we all came from different backgrounds, but we're all working towards the same thing, which is restoring trust in the system and finding ways and finding the solutions to help us move forward. And yes, just in case you're wondering, there are endless puns with the Forward Party, the Forward.
Yeah, I would say the catalyst for me was definitely women's health care. And, I have young children, and I worry with the freedoms that are starting to be restricted. I worry about their safety and for their families and for their future. And so I wanted to get involved with democracy reform. I looked to see where I could be most effective, and I found that, and like at the different parties, and I found that the Forward Party really stood for a lot of my values and a lot of things that I believe in, because I would like us to get back together, to being able to just have conversations like you guys do at Pizza and Politics, and it be about each other and finding solutions, not about you have to be on my team, we can't be on the same team, we can't be on different teams and still get together. I mean, just because you're on a different team doesn't mean you can't work together, or that you can't be friends off the court, or where, whatever analogy you want to use. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
For me, it kind of boils down to the simple, we have problems that need to be fixed. And that's not been a focus in this country for a while, a long time. And that started to be paramount after the 2016 election for me, in that how that new government in 2016 completely focused on the opposite of what problems were actually out there. You know what I mean? Day-to-day basic problems, no, it's these other things, okay, which was made out of a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. But that's really what their focus was on. And then when I started focusing on that for my children, which my youngest children are boys that are your peers in Gen Z, and I say, well, what is this world going to be for them, really, if we don't do something now? And so the combination of things, I mean, I voted third party in 2016. I voted for the Democrat in 2020 because I just thought that that's what we needed to do in order to preserve democracy, to be honest. And that's really where we at now, is preserving. The biggest problem that we have is our democracy. because it's not functioning the way it should be functioning right now, which is focusing on the people. And that's really where my sons and their anger, because they see all these things not being done, motivated me to say, okay, then I need to do something. And that's when I found these ladies and the rest of the Forward Party, and it's like, okay, this makes sense. This is something that really matters, and this is what we need to do right now.
Wonderful. I want to add on to that comment you made about Gen Z, right? I think Kyahn and I being part of Gen Z, I think a big issue that comes with our generation is a lack of material objective in voting, right? I go to the polls. I have to go out of my way to go vote. I have to go out of my way to become educated on who I'm voting for. And it just seems like even when we do vote, things just don't really go our way. So my question for the Forward Party is this: how do you make it so that our generation becomes interested and can see actual material objectives being accomplished through Forward Party actions?
You change the focus.
Okay.
Okay, and you make it clear that the focus is on you. So things should be easier to vote, not harder. Okay? The reason it's harder is because there's an electoral advantage that a party is able to gain from making it harder for people that they think are not going to be voting for them. And that's what's happened. So our point is, okay, no. It's supposed to be about you. So you make it easier for people to do that. You have things be more transparent. You have the information more readily accessible. You make the voting more readily accessible and easier. You don't put restrictions on voting. You know, you have states that do entire elections online. Oregon does it all online. It seems to work pretty well for them. Yeah, you have concerns about hacking and blah, 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 blah. Well, they figured it out. So why can't we figure it out? We're in the great state of Texas. We should be able to figure that out, right?
This is Texas.
This is Texas. We should be able to figure that out. We should be able to figure out how to make it easier and safe for people to vote. So that's what we're about, is that.
Also, I'm sorry, were
No,
you
I'm
finished? Okay. I just want to chime in and say that, you know, I think that you are feeling disenfranchised is kind of what you're saying, because you are doing the work and still you're not seeing the outcomes. Am I understanding that
Absolutely,
correctly? Okay.
absolutely.
And so here at the Forward Party, we see that, and we see that, you know, the map has been gerrymandered so much, and it has been, I mean, you know, from the 2022 census or 2021 census, we had an increase in Hispanics and Black voters, but yet our maps show that they've actually lost districts and that means they've lost representation, and that is a problem. So we don't want to just represent one party, race, etc. We want to represent all. So we want to, and that's what our policies are, or I don't want to call them policies, but our values are. And so we hope that you will see that and you will come with us on this journey, no matter if you're left or right leaning, because that's our main motto: not left, not right, forward, right? So you can lean however you want, but come with us. Tell us what you think. Like, how can we do this together?
To build on that, one of the reasons why you feel frustrated and not listened to is because enough of you are not voting yet. Okay? Now, that could be for all the reasons that you said. But that's one of our focuses at Forward, is to be able to engage more of your generation and more of your culture, to be active, to understand that they have skin in this game, more so, because that's what it's supposed to be about. Yeah. And we believe if we do that, more of what you want will start being filtered into the actual policy making in the country, because more people like you are now participating.
And we know that there's 8 million Gen Zers that have come online, so to speak, that will be able to vote in this election. That is not nothing. So I think there's 40 million Gen Zs that will be eligible to vote in this election. So we want to hear from you, like, what can we do to get more young people engaged, and how can we make that happen so that your voice is heard?
What do you want? What do you see are the problems that need to be fixed? That's the key questions, and that's what people want, is to be heard.
I would say another great thing is like from an HQ perspective or national perspective is they're really searching for candidates. And it could be a state senator candidate or it could be school board, because you can see school boards are where they're making decisions on banning books. So running for office or finding that candidate who in the state of Texas, because of our voter laws, we've missed the deadline and we don't have ballot access in the state of Texas. We missed the December 11th deadline. That doesn't mean that there could not be after the primaries, the 2023 December 11th. After the primaries, there might be a Republican or a Democratic candidate who might align with us on our values, and we can say they're forward-aligned candidates, and we get behind them. So there's that avenue as well. In general, it's getting forward-aligned candidates in office, in seats to make an impact, but also understanding that, as the great Rick Kennedy says all the time, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. If you're looking for short-term, results, I mean, all I would say to that is it took us a long time to get to where we are at. It's going to take us decades to kind of turn the tide. We're just now starting.
Not necessarily. If we get enough people voting in the right direction, it can turn like this. Energy changes things. Movement changes things. That's how everything in this country has been done, by people standing up and raising their hand and saying, we can do this. And it didn't necessarily take decades, or depending on how you look at it. So it's, so yes, and maybe no.
No, I think the youth in this country have always been a protagonist for change.
100%.
You just go back and look at the Vietnam era, okay? And the protest movements that the boomers at the time were able to start. As crazy as it sounds, once upon a time, boomers were radical, okay? And they changed the course of this country with what they did in the 1960s, okay? And it's that kind of youthful exuberance and energy that we're hoping Gen Z is able to do now. Because Julie brings up a very good point. We are looking for people that are looking to make a difference by running for office. Not necessarily partisan offices, but nonpartisan offices, like school boards, like city councils, like mayors, whatever they happen to be. But if someone in the Gen Z is looking to make that big of a difference and is willing to do it now, we'll say, hey, come on, we'll help you. We'll help you get elected.
Right. We'll give you social media backing, and anything we can do to get your message out. Message out there.
Some of my biggest responsibilities are on candidate recruitment, and a lot of that is going to be focused on your generation, because I truly believe that y'all are well informed enough and motivated enough to do things now that would make a difference for all people in our community that we have here locally.
With that in mind, I would like to ask, what are some of the near and far milestones or achievements that y'all hope to accomplish as a party?
For me, for Texas specifically, my goal is on 2030, because that's when we redistrict, and that's when we get, with the census, we get the gerrymandering. If we can get people into local seats in the Texas representative and Texas Senates, that would be my short-term goal. I would say even before that, ballot access in 2026, but honestly, 2030 is my milestone, because gerrymandering, just like we're not getting equal representation because of we are heavily gerrymandered in the state of Texas.
I want to add on to that. I definitely agree with everything she said. And for a short-term goal, I would say ranked choice voting and helping, ranked choice voting of Texas, and just really getting involved and getting that into our, because that's the way that starts and has started around the country, is local and on your local ballots. And so I think that's more of a short-term goal locally, and then maybe a longer term national and statewide.
So they're at the state level. I'm looking at it also from a local level, being a local chair of the party. Short term, I want to learn. I want to learn what you're interested in. The people that are not engaged in the system, the people that are partially engaged, that are frustrated, I want to learn what it is that you want. What do you want out of this to make things happen and make things go in a better way for you and for the country? Getting people that are not registered to vote, registered to vote. Getting people that are registered to vote but not voting, asking them, why aren't you voting? What's the reason? Is it because there's no one talking what you want to hear? Or do you not think you can make any difference? Why are you not voting? And then saying, okay, let's fix that. Okay? And we can start fixing it by saying, let's get together and let's start making some of these changes like what Emily talked about with ranked choice voting that we talked about. Have choice 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we keep going through the choices until we get to a candidate that's going to get 50% plus 1. Okay? Therefore, all the votes matter. Right? Because if all you're doing is you keep going until you finally get to that majority, boom, then your vote truly does matter. So hopefully that will engage people that are not engaged to join in and, for lack of a better term, join the party and make things happen that's better for all of us because we're thinking of it from our perspectives, which is what's going to help me live my best life.
Gotcha.
And also, I'm sorry. Also, I want to say, obviously, this is a presidential year, so all eyes are on the presidential year. But we have primaries. We're having a primary March 5th. We might have a runoff in May. Being aware of election time and not just focusing on November 4th, every 4 years is also extremely important. I think for your generation and my generation could be having it more focused on elections happen every year. Let's make it a habit of knowing knowing what the election is, knowing what's on the ballot, knowing how that impacts you, how that impacts your family, and taking action as needed by exercising your right and casting that vote. That's how we're going to see change. That's how we're going to see change. And to go back to what Emily said, I would be happy if we could get, in the next couple of years, if we can start seeing more change. I just feel like that's why this election, especially in Texas, is so important, because there's just so many things there's so many distractions. And so getting people into office that understand ranked choice voting and that want to apply our same election reform, but also are not going to be on the same extremes as what we have in the state of Texas, which we are a one-party rule state. So that's what the Texas Forward Party really wants to do, is infuse the power of choice at the ballot box. We are long overdue for more choices, better representation.
That's great. So during this conversation, we've been talking a lot of hypotheticals, a lot of concepts, a lot of I would like, a lot of this would be nice. But I want to ask this, mostly for the viewers. How exactly do you want to get this done? Brent, you mentioned that you want to know what the young vote wants. Kyahn and I, we're two people. We have our own wants and likes. But to look at Gen Z as a whole, how does the Forward Party, or not just Gen Z, but everyone, how does the Forward Party plan on really tapping into that interest? How exactly do you plan on mobilizing? And what's the game plan exactly? What's the move forward to get these wants and likes moving?
Ideally, it would be doing the panel that I am going to be participating in. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Thank you for that.
So that's going to be
What date is
awesome. The February 29th from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in room G102 at the Lone Star Montgomery campus. Be there or be square. So that's an 80s, so I'm dating myself. I know that. So my sons would go, oh my God. But in any case, it's engaging y'all in this group and just sitting and listening to what y'all are talking about. If you're discussing Israel and Gaza, what are y'all talking about? What are you saying? What are you caring about? Okay? It's going through social media and asking people on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, this is blah, 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 blah. What do you think? You know? And it's getting out into the campuses and setting up tables and registering people to vote. That's one of our number one priority in the Montgomery County Forward Party is registering people to vote right now. And so we're going through the process, which is convoluted, okay, of going and being able to be deputy voter registrars. But that's what it matters the most. And when we're sitting there registering people to vote, asking y'all, okay, so what would get you to show up to vote? What matters to you the most? You know, and hopefully engaging people like yourselves to help us with asking those same questions to others and getting dialogue going so that we understand more about what it is that not only Gen Z wants, but all of the disengaged, disenfranchised people want in this country in their system of government.
And we would take that information and share it with our candidates, who we hope to have by doing these events in our local communities and getting the word out and letting people know and learn more about us and like who we are, and so that they can decide if they do want to align with us. And then, you know, we can't do anything without candidates and people affiliated with us, I would say. And so, but we want to start in our communities and spread from there.
We have 3 candidates that have already approached us to be part of us in one way, shape, or form across the state, mostly from a state representative perspective right now, an affiliation, or someone discussing potentially running as an independent against a Republican candidate. So it's those types of things that Emily mentioned that's going to be critical for us, is empowering them with the knowledge of exactly what people want.
I would say what we're doing now, which is community engagement on a local level. Community engagement is going to be real key. When I first started this, I thought it was going to be social media. 2 years into this, I'm convinced is we need to go into the communities. Civically, we need to go into the communities and educate. From a national HQ perspective, it's providing local states the guardrails and the organization to, because you have to have organization. You can't just be like, I'm going to start a political party and you have 50 states that are just like, I'm doing my Oregon thing. This is Florida, you know, all that perspective. So I think for us, it's local. Getting citizens in our community of any age bracket, any ethnicity activated. Do you want to see change? Well, local is where it's at. Be the change in your community and volunteer. Some of us have different areas where we can volunteer. I have a lot more time than people my age because I don't have the responsibilities of children. So I can help where I can, but if you're a student who has responsibilities, you can help. If you're a mom with 2 school-age children, you can help. If you're a dad with children, past school age, you can help. It's finding that compromise where you can devote your time to making a difference, but also you're finding that balance in your life is very important.
As a very good example, I'm just going to give my own personal example of this. I was part of the Conroe Independent School District Bond Committee here in Montgomery County. And that process alone was strictly volunteer and everything. I learned so much about the world that I didn't even know about that existed. And it made me realize a lot of different things about things. So the engagement part that Julie just mentioned that's critical and Emily's going to expound upon helps us by enriching our own knowledge about the world and makes it easier for us to be able to listen to other people.
I love that, Brent, because then you can put a name to what other people's opinions, and so it opens the door hopefully for a little bit more understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was going to do was just plug, if you do want to be a volunteer for the Forward Party, you can go to our website at texasforwardparty.com and find your county chair. .org and find your county chair and see, do you have a county chair already? Reach out to them. If there's a form that you can fill out where you can reach out to them. If you don't have a county chair, you might look into being one. So that was all I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have our statewide monthly Zoom meetings where Rick Kennedy does an overview of, okay, this is where we're at. What I love about the Forward Party, and even with HQ, is there's transparency. This is what we're doing. So you have a clear picture of what you're doing, and you have an understanding. So from that goal, you use your time, your free time to make that choice and figure out where do you best fit. I am a professional wallflower. Being on a podcast was never on any bucket list prior to. So also, and what I'm trying to get at is use this opportunity to kind of get out of your comfort zone. And you can do that. Like, I'm going to be out on voting day, March 5th. I was out in 2022 when November 2022 voting day. That was a lot of fun. We're in a very red county, so I was encountering a lot of people who might have hit that roadblock, but also was an opportunity to be like, hey, there's options. Hello, and they might be the wait and see, and there are going to be people that are like, I'm going to wait and see till you guys have more traction. I understand that, but we're just looking for people with open mind, just maybe file back in their vaults. Hey, there is going to be more choices. We might not be on the ballot until 2026, but we can make an impact right now.
And that's funny that she mentions that, because we are going to be out there listening. We're going to ask the question, why are you here today? Why are you voting? And we're going to ask that with Republicans. We're going to ask that of Democrats. Mm-hmm. So just like we're asking people why you're not voting, we're going to ask people, why are you voting? Because you got to see both sides of the spectrum to be able to say, okay, this is what's really going on. Because knowledge is power, and we got to have knowledge to be able to be powerful in a democracy and have a good voice.
I think one thing that I've heard a lot throughout the discussion asking, and as part of one of the integral things in Forward Party, is ranked choice voting. Mm-hmm. Maybe for the viewers and us here at Lone Star Montgomery campus, could you give a more in-depth explanation on what ranked choice voting is?
I love Julie's example that she always uses. So I let her.
So you're going to the grocery store, right? Okay. And we've over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of product shortages. And you're like, I really want a bag of Doritos. They're out of Cool Ranch Doritos. I know, blasphemy. So you're like, well, what is my second potato chip? So they're out of Lay's sour cream and onions. All right. So I'm Lay's sour cream and onions, to be honest, is number one for me. But I'm just saying, like, when you go somewhere and you're a consumer and you're like, oh, they don't have my choice. Ranked choice voting gives you that option of ranking your candidates. So I'll give you an example. In 2020, I was on the Yang Gang ride. And so Andrew Yang dropped out of the presidential election before the March 5th primary. If I had gone and early voted and used my constitutional right to early vote, my vote would have been thrown away. Instead, with ranked choice voting, it gives you the opportunity. So I would have, Andrew Yang as number one, Bernie Sanders as number two. Like, you get that option. So if by the time somebody in that case, something happens, you're not throwing away your vote. Your voice is still being heard. And I think that's the easiest way to break down ranked choice voting. It's not complicated. They did it in Alaska. Nothing against Alaska. It's not. If you watch the mainstream news, you would think that we're asking you to, solve algebra problems or something along that line. It's not. It's just you're ranking your candidates, and so your voice is being heard. And if your candidate drops out of a race because of money before, you're not throwing away your voice. So that's what I love about ranked choice voting.
And as from a practical perspective, say you have 5 candidates and you voted for the candidate that after the first round, all the votes are counted, is in 5th place. So that fifth place candidate has 5% of the vote. Those people's second choice would now come into play. And then those votes would then be added to the top four candidates, okay? And then they would look at things again. And then they would say, okay, now who's the fourth place candidate? Then that person, their voters would now then have their next choice in line. And that happens until you get to 50% plus one.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is how you actually get a majority support of a candidate. Okay? Because it's either your first, second, or maybe third choice. I think in Alaska they got down to a third choice on a
and
congressional race.
And also, I want to plug, we do have a very active and hopefully a partner in RCV for Texas.org. So we already have, they've had legislation on 2021. They had, it died obviously in committee in 2023. So we already have that foundation and partnership that we could have so we can get the word out on ranked choice voting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Sorry, I just really wanted to add that right now, the representation, most people in Texas that are representing us, 50% of people do not want them in office. So, do a little research on that, and you will be fascinated at the numbers and the people that are actually voting. I mean,
The primaries?
in the primaries. That's all I want to say.
The point of this is to engage, to convince people that your voice does matter. Because the people that are not engaged because they don't think their votes, they think they're throwing their votes away.
Yeah.
Because they're Green Party or Libertarian or whatever. Well, now you have a chance to vote for your Libertarian, and then second candidate could be someone else that's a different party or whatever. So this makes it more likely that your vote is going to matter than anything else that's out there.
And even though your first vote didn't count towards the candidate that you are supporting, your vote still counts because then your vote goes to the second person.
Which you still support.
Yeah, so you've already ranked them as number two.
And if you don't support anyone and you only want to do one, you're not penalized. That's fine. That's fine. If you just want to vote for one person and be done, you can do that.
That's great. So, on the subject of voting and winning elections, I do want to ask this. What is the realistic chance that the Forward Party moving forward?
I told you the puns don't end.
I thought
Do
about
not
that
do
on
it.
the spot.
do not do
Genius.
drinking games.
I'm going to add that to the book list on my New Year's party. Forward Party puns. Anyways, but realistically, moving forward, what are the chances the Forward Party has any opportunities to actually win elections moving forward? Local elections are doable in any county, as stakes may not be as high, there may not be as much competition, but then you go on a state level, then a federal level, the competition is much, much greater. And we already see Democratic and Republican candidates suffering as is, and even well-established third parties such as Libertarian and Green parties having a very difficult time. So the Forward Party of Texas being a brand new third party, just starting out, what are your chances moving forward of actually gaining seats and gaining traction in the state of Texas?
Let me give you a big picture perspective. That the Forward Party in some other states have already had candidates elected.
Pennsylvania, I believe. Colorado, we had some in 2022. But it's easier. I think you also have to understand, as you were talking first, for this election season, I just want to say for our viewers and to let you guys know, we are not getting into the 2024 presidential
Here in
race.
Texas.
We're any national.
Right, but other states have Forward Party candidates that they
Yes.
are running and they are on the ballot. and
Yes,
they're
but
making
those
things happen.
states don't have the state of Texas, because we are Texas, and has made it competition really hard. And it's a very there's signatures that have
To get on the ballot.
to get on the ballot. In other states like Pennsylvania or even Louisiana, I believe is a lot easier voter access. They have cleaner pathways for a short-term success. And the state of Texas, right now for this calendar year, we can only have affiliated candidates, or nonpartisan candidates. We cannot have a candidate that runs on our ticket because we don't have ballot access because they have made independent parties. The scale is so hard, and Texas, unfortunately, is already a one-party rule state. We really, although we have Democrats and we have a state of Texas Democratic, it's the Republican Party that makes all our policies and procedures.
But I mean, Texas has a history of doing that because once upon a time, Texas was a Democrat state. So it's going back and forth, and so for that reason, eventually, the seesaw is going to land in the middle. Okay, and that's where the most of Texans are, because in the 2022 election, you had 50% of the voters in Texas that are registered to vote saying, "I am interested in voting," not vote. So from a starting perspective, that's our focus. Is figuring out why that 50% didn't vote and being able to say, look, we can make that happen if you go ahead and vote. Okay? We can activate you. We can engage you so that you do matter. Okay? So that's what it's about, is reaching out to groups that are not being listened to, that are frustrated, like Gen Z, like Hispanics, that maybe not even registered to vote because they're afraid of doing the documentation, putting others in jeopardy, or whatever the case may be. But it's about making those inroads and taking the steps. This is not something that's going to happen today. It's not going to happen 6 weeks from today, or maybe even 2 years from now. But longer term, we believe that the majority of people are tired of not having a voice. So now we're going to say, you have a voice, and not only do you have a voice, you can use it.
Nice. And what are some community outreach events or channels that y'all have open and available for us to come and see y'all?
We have an open Discord. We are on all social media channels. We have email. We in Montgomery County, we just had an event on the 15th or the first, and that's
Open
what
house.
Yeah, and like Brent said earlier, we are going to be out on election day. Location's still TBA, but you guys have been forewarned. But it's just party building. It's one step at a time, one, and not getting too ahead.
Texas is a big state, though, and so if you go to our website, we have an events section where you can look and see, if there's any local events going on in your community. And we've been a little bit slow at getting that started, but it's starting to pick up. And so we're hoping to have more there for people across the state and getting that up there.
A lot of our events locally are going to be focused on voter registration and things like that. So we're going to be working with the League of Women Voters and probably LULAC and maybe the NAACP, and doing some events locally to try to engage and voters that are not currently registered and getting them to registered. So those are things that we're in the process of having those discussions. I'm talking to the chairs of those groups to be able to do that. And we'd be happy to share that information with y'all, to share with your group for sure, because we'd love to have y'all out and participating and helping get people registered.
So on that same subject, getting people registered to vote, it's not just getting them registered, it's knowing what to vote for. So does the Forward Party have any type of voter guide or any type of links or information where voters can understand what are some forward-aligned candidates, or what are some policies that exist or are on the ballot the Forward Party would like to push, or just in general, maybe an unbiased or, what's the word? Non-biased voter ballots so that people understand exactly what's going on?
I would say we have had previous candidates, but the clock reset with 2024. So right now in the state of Texas and on a national, we we have people that we are vetting, and we have people that we are interviewing, and that are in the process to affiliate with us, or whether a state. But as of right now, no. We do not. We do have candidates that we supported in the 2022 and 2023 election. I can put some articles in the comments so they can find references to some of the point. But unfortunately, none of those candidates were from the state of Texas, and that happens to do with our voting laws.
We have one candidate that we're working with now that's running for a district attorney position out in far west Texas. That's a Ford affiliate. But we will have other candidates that we're going to be doing, affiliations with moving forward, and we have them on the website.
That information will all be on the website
Yeah.
as it comes out. So, but we are volunteer based, and so we're, we have I believe we had a committee that was working on this, and so they kind of work on that, getting that information, and then we put it.
We also had
out
policy statements during when the legislature was in session and doing stuff that our executive team issued.
Yeah.
Yes, and Tony Wing Jenkins did a wonderful job. It's informing voters, like, here's the policy that they're proposing, here's the law that they want to make, go vote. Not telling you how to vote, just like, here's the information, here's how you can easily vote for what you want. And so that's kind of the things that we've done in the past, and we hope to continue to do in the future.
And it's not only on our website, but on social media
Yeah.
and stuff like that. We put it out there for people to know. This is
And
what's going on.
when we voiced our opinion, I'm sorry, Brent, when we voiced our opinion, it was on election reform. There were some of the things in the session, especially with Harris County. Just to go back on the limited government and just government overreach is basically the simplest way to say it. So we're going to voice our concerns when it's in the democracy space. In regards to the issues and the policies that are ideological and that are triggering for some people, we're more focused on fixing the broken system than we are on focusing on issues where you can have an extreme on the right, extreme on the left, and then everybody is at that tug of war. Gotcha. We're not. And at Thanksgiving, everybody's walking on eggshells because nobody wants to talk about politics. That would be my long-term goal, to kind of like get away from that, where we can have happy families.
It goes back to what we talked about in our offline conversation, that it's about what people want, and the people drive what the policy should be. So even on the more controversial red meat items that both parties use to generate energy, it's not so much about what the policy is, but actually what the people want, more than anything, on those different difficult topics and difficult problems that are out there.
Before we go, I'd like to ask, speaking on like candidates and stuff, what kind of candidates would the Forward Party back, and also what are candidates that Forward Party would not back? Like, what are some certain, I guess, values or actions that could negate you from, trying to become a candidate?
You mean I'm sorry. You mean if they meet with Nick Fuentes? Yeah. I think just staying away from the extremes. They have a pretty thorough vetting process. I mean, they'll go through your social media. Okay. So, and just basically, if you come to us and you say, my positions are this, and we go to your social media, and it's not the same story. It's that kind of thorough vetting. So, and then we're going to, we look at everything, because to put our stamp of approval behind a candidate, we want to ensure that they align with us both on our election reform and ranked choice, and are open to ranked choice voting and open primaries, but also they have the history, whether it be on their social media or on their professional and personal life careers. They have what they're presenting to us is who they are in person. So I think I hope that answered your question.
To build on that, I was going to
Please.
say that Emily talked about the values earlier, and I think that's what it boils down to. It's
you.
about inclusion, okay? It's about listening. It's about willing to solve problems regardless of what a policy is. It's about making things happen for the American people. And anything else you would add to that, Emily?
Just to answer the other part of his question, which was, values that we don't want, would go back to, so if you are like, I love everything that you guys stand for, except I don't want independent redistricting, well, then you're not a forward candidate, So, you have to have the pillars that we have laid out on
values.
laid out on our website and our values, which go back to election reform, caring about the people, and really making voting easier and more democratic than it is today.
Small d. Democratic. It's engaging people, and not being afraid to engage people, because you have a lot of people that don't want to talk to voters. And they go out of their way to do that. And it's like, no, it's about talking to them and finding out what it is they want, and then going and doing it. It's not hard. It really isn't. They make it harder, but it's really not. It's about doing what the people are asking you or telling you that they want to have happen.
And always following the money, I think, is most important, especially when candidates and campaign finance, who is paying for running for office is extremely expensive, and so who's backing you up? Where does your money come from? Kind of situation, and does that is the origin of that? Does that not align with our particular state values? So, it's really a whole picture, our voting reform and our message in regards to changing how we think in America of democracy with ranked choice voting, open primaries, and, no gerrymandering. It's like I said, but also is your character, can your character be aligned with, what you stand for or what you say you stand for? And I think this is important components, because right now, with so much money in politics, it's often like politicians become celebrities. And in my opinion, you work for me. I don't need to see you on X or Twitter all day, fighting with another representative from another state. You work. It's like reminding our elected officials, hey, we're your constituents, not the super PAC or whoever donated to your campaign. The voters, we the people, are the people that you need to answer to. I think getting back to that, but obviously, that's going to take time. And I definitely believe that our country is worth investing in that time to make that change, however long it takes.
So on that line of candidates and elections, so this year specifically is very important for Texas voters. There's going to be the presidential election in November, and then there is the March elections coming up in March 5th. I just want to know, what's the Forward Party's stance on these elections? What's on the line from the perspective from the Forward Party? We have an incumbent president going for a second term, and we have Donald Trump going for another second term. So what does the Forward Party see in these elections, or what's on the line?
I was going to say, to start, vote.
Yeah.
Okay, first and foremost, vote. Because if everyone votes, then everything that should happen will happen. Okay, things that shouldn't happen occur when we don't use our voice. Yeah. So in this election, you have, from my own personal opinion, this is not Forward Party's perspective, but I think you have literally democracy at stake, because you have an entity that's in play that's made clear that democracy is something that you can dabble in, and is not that important, especially if you disagree with them. And from that perspective, I think it's important that every one of us that is eligible to vote votes. Just on that perspective alone is making sure that we can have another vote in 2026 or 2028 or whenever that happens to be.
I would back that up a little bit to say that, or like, zoom out a little bit. Definitely vote. And from the Forward Party perspective, though, not necessarily that this is what the Forward Party would say. However, I think that everyone who is paying attention or listening knows that this is a repeat match that nobody wants. And so it's a great example for the Forward Party to say this is not what we want, because we want to listen. We want to find out what candidate you want, and we want to present that person for you. And so we're not doing anything in this election, but I think it's a great example of what we don't want to happen again in the future, and that's why we want you to vote.
Agree.
I would say, especially from a local perspective, I would say pay attention. Look at what happened in 2023. Follow the Texas Sledge. How many special sessions were there for teacher pay and to fully fund Texas schools? How many were there? And teachers did not get raises, or our schools are still not funded. What did pass? Ask yourself, do we need to be replacing school counselors with religious chaplains? That passed. What do we need to be removing voting places from colleges? That passed. And then determine, hey, research your candidates. Who's running? Who's the incumbent? Who's running as a new office? Do these individuals align with what? Do I want to have the same repeat situation that we had in 23 and 21 in Texas Sledge? Do we want that? Because to me, it just seems like we're going in circles and we are deflecting, and we're using the polarization to not get at what the real issues and what's coming in the future for us if we don't start addressing the issues, whether it be doctor shortages, teacher pay, immigration, any issue. If we're going to sit and focus on these issues that do nothing but ignite and create disorder, then I think that we're gonna continue in the state of Texas to go down a not so clean path. But if you take anything out from this podcast, take that research, find out what's happening, what happened, and who voted for what. There is Ballotpedia is a very good website you can find out what your representative voted for. They even have it locked into like abortion, immigration. They have it categorized for you. They make it very easy to do research, the internet. But do that, and then make your own informed decisions on what equal representation means to you.
I would say when you're doing your research, make sure to go to multiple websites to really see and look at, the center policy, the left policy, the right policy. So you really have all of the information, because I know that that's one of the issues that we have. That's why we found ourselves where we are, because a lot of us are only looking at one thing, and social media reinforces that and shows us that same thing again. And so it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
But
Knowledge is power.
Right.
Period.
the more you know.
The more you know, and it's we can laugh at it, but it's true. And in a democracy, if you don't have the knowledge, then you don't have the power truly to do what needs to happen. And it takes a lot of work in a democracy. And I quite frankly don't believe we, the citizens, have put enough work into it, because we've allowed the system to come into place that we have in place.
We become complacent.
We become complacent. We just say it can't be changed. We get frustrated because it's not doing what we want, and we just say, ugh.
Which is exactly what the powers that be and in play want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why, Congress has like an 18, or it's probably even lower now, approval rating. It's because every single state has participated in the gerrymandering and the these dangerous practices that impact our democracy. So we have to rethink that. And to answer your question of what the Forward Party is doing, I think from an overall arc is they're providing us with that organization and the guardrails so we can go to our communities and so we can find out this is what's important in Montgomery County, and this might not be important in Harris County or important in Whatcom County, but this is important. This means more to our residents. So finding that gauge within your community is most important, and you have to do the research, you have to do the engagement to come to any conclusion to find the solution.
And on that note, I just want to say thank you so much to both of you, Kyahn and Rafael. We've enjoyed talking to you. I don't want to cut you off if you have any burning questions, but I also want to be respectful of your time. So I don't want to keep you here all day. So I just want to let you close us out if you want, or we can close it,
Yeah, so I mean, I just have a comment to make. Thank you for having us. It means a lot to our club to have a platform like this to be able to show our message of just civil conversation and respecting each other as humans. I just want to plug the club in one more time.
Please do.
Yeah, so we're Pizza and Politics. We meet every first and third Thursday of the month in room G112 if you're a student at Lone Star College. And in regards to the panel, we're going to be hosting the name of the panel. I never got to mention it because I'm really proud of it. It's Pizza, Politics, and Public Policy, a talk on ideologies. It's alliteration. It's funny.
Yes.
So that's going to be held on February 29th on Thursday in room G112 at Lone Star College, Montgomery. Thank you.
Yes, hopefully we see you all there. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Rafael and Kyahn, for coming, and looking forward to your event on the 29th, room G 112.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Brent, for sitting in. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to participating in their event. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be great discourse. So please come by and check it out.
Definitely.
Please.
On that note, thank you so much, and
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Absolutely. Thumbs
leave-
up.